Morning, everybody. So, what Tim has just told you is that the great value of the NJR is not just that it is a huge data resource, but the key point is that it is data resource with interpretation. And so I'm just going to spend the next few minutes of talking to you about the latest developments with the NJR research strategy. So, in terms of what we do to support the workforce, both academic and clinical, the take-home message is that it's not the information, it's the interpretation as well that is the key, and that clinical practice and research are not siloed in the way that's demonstrated here. They actually are very complementary in informing our practice. So in terms of what we've done for the academic clinical workforce over the last 20 years is we've funded 13 clinical PhD studentships that have gone on to be leaders, and many of those leaders are in this room today. Most recently, over the last couple of years, we've been partnering with Orthopaedic Research UK to further foster and develop clinical PhD studentships, and the next one is advertised at this meeting. We've also, as a result of all of this activity, published many hundreds of peer-reviewed publications, which you can see in the literature and see what work research the NJR has been doing, and of course, people who use the NJR data. These data sets have informed national guidelines and international policy and guidelines, and we'll come on to some examples of those in a moment. One example of that is the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development. Rolls off the tongue, I'm sure you've all heard of the OECD. We led much of their work on the PROMS initiatives, setting standards for international PROMS and what data we can extract out of that and apply to look at how different countries performed. We've played a central role in providing the largest data set of the International Prosthetic Joint Infection Initiative. That was through work with the International Society of Arthroplasty Registers. With the EPRD, which is our German partner that looks at the German registry, as Tim has mentioned, we led international activities on implant classification, which has resulted in us being able to drill down into this information in much more detail to support methodologies. And here's an example of us actually helping the American Academy to sort out their implant database through us working with them. But why are we changing things now? What's wrong? I guess the question we're asking ourselves now is, are we doing as much as we possibly can to develop our external linkages and make data as broadly available as possible? Historically, our data access model was very kind of cumbersome and very much purely based on scientific merit, and the other limitation was that it was kind of one team per question per time, and this was partly driven by the fact that we had logistical limitations in delivering the same data set to multiple different groups and keeping a GDPR control over it at the same time. Does this really fit with open science principles? We think we could do better, and so this is just an overview of how we're evolving things. So, further supporting our clinical and academic colleagues, we've undertaken several interventions to broaden our linkages. We've been, with some Health Data Research UK money, been getting integrated with the Observational Medical Outcomes Programme, which is a global programme of harmonising data sets so that they all speak the same language and can be used interchangeably. We are pursuing negotiations with UK Biobank to incorporate our data set in their data set so that we can give broader advantage to a much greater group of international researchers. And as Tim has mentioned, since I wrote this slide, there has been development with the PROMS data, and we hope that we will get some from NHS England one day. Our new research strategy, therefore, is going to be more iterative and advisory in its approach rather than discriminatory. This, of course, will all be subject to information governance regulations. Where for external projects, i.e. those that are not developed within the NJR, we're going to have the one team per project rule will no longer apply, so that if multiple teams want to work on the same subject area using different methodologies, that would be perfectly valid. However, we still have a governance requirement to meet data governance regulations, and so everything has to be set within that framework. And of course, all these changes require bedding in. But that's just a flavour of some of the development work that we're doing in the NJR at the moment among the research community.